Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Xiong. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. US officials are increasingly concerned that the giant Chinese-made cranes are potential spying tools for China. These giant cranes are operating at American ports across the country, including at several used by the military. Most of the cranes are manufactured by ZPMC Shanghai Zhenhua Heavy Industry Corporation, a Chinese state-owned multinational engineering company and one of the world's largest manufacturers of cranes and large steel structures. Some national security and Pentagon officials have compared Chinese-made cranes to a Trojan horse. Although these cranes are comparably cheap, they contain sophisticated sensors that can register and track the provenance and destination of containers. It is possible that China could capture information about material being shipped in or out of the country to support US military operations around the world. Bill Ivanina is a former top US counterintelligence official. He said that the cranes could also provide the remote access for someone looking to disrupt the flow of goods. Cranes can be new Huawei, Mr. Ivanina said. It's the perfect combination of legitimate business that can also masquerade as clandestine intelligence collection. Huawei is a Chinese telecom giant whose equipment US officials have effectively banned after warning that it could be used to spy on Americans. Huawei has said its products aren't national security risk. Beijing is obviously upset by the new development. A representative of the Chinese embassy in Washington called U.S. concerns about the cranes a paranoia-driven attempt to obstruct trade and economic cooperation with China. Playing the China card and floating the China threat theory is irresponsible and will harm the interests of the U.S. itself, it said. In recent years, U.S. national security officials have pointed to a range of equipment manufactured in China that could facilitate either surveillance or disruptions in the U.S., including baggage screen systems and electrical transformers, as well as broader concerns about China's growing control of ports around the world through strategic investments. China makes almost all of the world's new shipping containers and controls a shipping data service. In that context, the giant ship-to-shore cranes have drawn new attention. In the latest defense policy bill passed last December, lawmakers require the Transportation Department's Maritime Administrator to produce an unclassified study by the end of this year on whether foreign manufactured cranes pose cybersecurity or national security threats at American ports. National security officials have not detailed any instances of cranes being used to nefarious ends. In the case of the high-altitude balloon shot down in February, U.S. authorities said the vehicle was made by a manufacturer with a direct relationship with the Chinese military and carried antennas and sensors for collecting intelligence and communications. ZPMC produced cranes began to enter the U.S. market around 2 decades ago. Industry executive described these cranes were of good quality that was significantly cheaper than Western suppliers. In recent years, ZPMC has grown into a major player in the global automated ports industry, working with Microsoft Corp and others to connect equipment and analyze data in real time. In a 2017 video on Microsoft's website, Hai-Liang Song, ZPMC's then chairman, said, "We used to sell equipment, but now we are selling systems." In the video, then President Qingfeng Huang added, "Through our main office in Shanghai, you can monitor all the cranes to help troubleshoot." ZPMC executives were often celebrated around the U.S. During a visit to the Charleston, South Carolina port in 2018, Mr. Huang presented a model of crane to a local middle school. Today, ZPMC says it controls around 70% of the global market for cranes and has sold its equipment in more than 100 countries. A U.S. official said the company makes nearly 80% of the ship-to-shore cranes in use at the U.S. ports. The huge cranes are generally delivered to U.S. ports fully assembled on ships and are operated through Chinese-made software. In some cases, they are supported by Chinese nationals working on 2-year U.S. visas. U.S. officials described as potential avenues through which intelligence could be collected. The Defense Intelligence Agency conducted a classified assessment in 2021 and found that Beijing could potentially throttle port traffic or gather intelligence on military equipment being shipped. U.S. officials didn't say whether they had found any specific instances of ZPMC cranes being used for espionage. In the past 2 years, ports in Virginia, South Carolina, and Maryland acquired new cranes from ZPMC. These ports are at times used by nearby U.S. military bases. It has prompted concerns within the U.S. national security community and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In 2021, FBI agents searched a cargo ship delivering ZPMC cranes to the Baltimore port and found intelligence-gathering equipment on board. It is unknown if any action was taken as a result. William Doyle, executive director of the Maryland Port Administration, said the Baltimore port had purchased 4 cranes from ZPMC and hadn't found any issues while assembling and testing them, and is continually scanning the networks for security. A spokesman for the Port of Norfolk, Virginia, said that the facility has deployed ZPMC cranes for 2 decades and uses its own employees to operate and maintain them. ZPMC is a subsidiary of China Communications Construction Corporation, a leading contractor for Xi Jinping's Belt and Road Initiative to develop infrastructure and trade links across Asia, Africa, and beyond. In 2020, U.S. authorities limited 5 CCCC units' access to U.S. technology, citing its role in Beijing's military civil fusion program, among other factors. Last year, Florida Congressman Carlos Gimenez introduced legislation to ban future U.S. purchases of Chinese cranes and encourage other manufacturers. The congressman is a former mayor of Miami-Dade County, whose port has some ZPMC manufactured cranes. He said he proposed the legislation when he became aware that the software on ZPMC cranes could be used for nefarious purpose. Early in the Trump administration, officials in the National Security Council's Strategic Planning Office came to consider cranes as a unique point of interest. Sean Planke is a former cybersecurity official who was involved in those discussions. He said the officials determined that if Beijing's military could access the cranes, they could potentially shut down U.S. ports without drawing on their navy. A national maritime cybersecurity plan released in December 2020 found that no single U.S. agency had the responsibility for maritime network security. It means there is no enforceable standards on cybersecurity, and port directors are free to buy equipment from any vendor. It is a hole that needs a plug. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.